The Donaldsons' living room was attractive without trying too hard. Sunlight poured through the uncurtained windows, and the furniture was old but well made, perhaps handed down from previous generations. Brad was slouched in a leather armchair that creaked each time he moved. Sammy sat in an antique rocker a good 6 inches lower. He was nodding at Brad's description of the joys of fatherhood. "Sunday morning, Jinho and I go out for croissant in the New York Times," Brad said. "It's my favorite thing of the week. I love it. Just me and my kid together. You ever do that with Susan? Go off on your own for a jaunt?" So far, Sammy lacked the confidence to do that, Mariam knew, but he didn't admit it. Gazing up at Brad from his lowered position, which made him seem touchingly humble, he said, "Well, I've been thinking of buying a jogging stroller." "Jogging stroller? Great invention. Fellow up the street has one. I'll find out the brand. Be good for your wife, too. Good for Zeba. Get her out of the house." "Zeba," he said, almost zebra, and he slid her a look. American men always found Zeba mesmerizing. Mariam was amused to see that Brad, despite choosing such a homespun wife himself, was no exception. The two sets of grandparents arrived at nearly the same time, Bitsy's parents first and Brad's close on their heels. Bitsy's parents were big and gray and friendly, Dave in coveralls like some ordinary yardman, and Connie in sweatpants and the same bandana print cap she'd had on at the airport. Brad's parents, with their glittery blonde hair and matching velour warm-up suits, seemed a little more formal. Pat and Lou, their names were. The man was Pat and the woman was Lou, or was it the other way around? Mariam knew she was going to have trouble with that. For a few minutes, the four of them performed their grandparent dance around the babies. They exclaimed at Jinho's quilted top, which Connie called by a foreign name, and made a nice to-do over Susan. "Isn't she just like a miniature?" Brad's mother caroled, and Dave scooped her right up. Luckily, Susan took this in stride. She reached for one of his curly gray sideburns and gave it a tug, dead serious, knitting her brow when he chuckled. "See how Jinho looks so tan-skinned next to Susan," Zeba pointed out. "We think Susan's father maybe was white." "Yes, you're just a little white tooth of a thing," Dave told Susan, but Bitsy jumped in with, "Oh, well, but actually that's not something we would notice, really." There was a silence. Zeba rounded her eyes at Mariam. Why not? And Mariam gave the tiniest shrug. Then Brad said, "So, anyways, you guys ready to tackle those leaves?" Judging by the number of rakes propped out on the porch, Mariam guessed the Donaldsons had held these gatherings before. She would never have done that herself. She kept after her own leaves single-handedly from the day they began to fall. But that was Americans for you. And it did turn out to be a real social event. For one thing, they were all put to work on the same section of yard, so that conversation could flow. And then there was no sense of pressure. Brad's mother didn't even make a pretense of raking, but appointed herself the baby watcher and stood over Jinho and Susan where they sat among the leaves. Bitsy's mother sank immediately into a canvas chair that her husband brought down from the porch, and she tipped her face up to the sunlight and closed her eyes. That cap made sense all at once. She was ill, Mariam realized. She must have lost her hair. Even though Dave raked with the others, he stopped frequently to go over to her and ask if she was all right. "Yes, fine," Connie said each time, and she would smile and pat his hand. Clearly it was from her that Bitsy got her no-nonsense looks, although Connie seemed softer than Bitsy and more retiring. Mariam herself worked diligently. She took a position between Bitsy and Lou. It was Lou who was the man of the couple. She believed she had that straight now, and raked in long, steady sweeps toward the pile that had started rising next to the driveway. She and Bitsy got a sort of rhythm going, like a chorus line. Lou was too busy talking to keep up with them. First he talked to Sammy on his other side, boring man talk about jobs, followed by the high price of housing once he learned that Sammy sold real estate. Then it was Mariam's turn. How long had she been in this country, and did she like it? Mariam hated being asked such questions, partly because she had answered them so many times before, but also because she preferred to imagine, unreasonable though it was, that maybe she didn't always instantly come across as a foreigner. "Where are you from?" someone might ask, just when she was priding herself on having navigated some particularly intricate and illogical piece of English. She longed to say, "From Baltimore. Why?" but lacked the nerve. Now she spoke so courteously that Lou could have had no inkling how she felt. "I've been here 39 years, she said. "And yes, of course, I love it." Lou gave a satisfied nod and turned back to his raking. Then Bitsy poked Mariam in the ribs with her elbow. "Lou thinks the universe ends just east of Ocean City," she said with a roll of her eyes. Mariam laughed. Bitsy was all right, she decided. And the colorful swath of workers stretching across the yard, creating a busy roaring of leaves and stirring up the dusty smell of autumn, made her feel happy and accepted. Even if she didn't have the slightest illusion that she could live this kind of life herself, she enjoyed getting a peek at it now and then. Jin-Ho plunged forward to hug a whole armful of leaves and bury her face in them. One leaf fluttered over to land on the front of Susan's jacket, and Susan plucked it off fastidiously and held it up to inspect it. The front yard was finished in a little more than an hour, a beautiful clean sweep of green, and the men moved on to the back. By then, though, both babies were beginning to fuss, so the women took them inside. In the Donaldsons' big old-fashioned kitchen, Bitsy settled Jin-Ho in her high chair and sliced a banana for her, while Ziba fed Susan a bottle. Mariam loved the little sounds that Susan made when she swallowed. "Num-num," she said with her eyes fixed on Ziba's face, and one hand rhythmically clutching and releasing Ziba's sweater sleeve. Brad's mother and Mariam sat at the kitchen table with glasses of white wine, but Bitsy's mother went upstairs to lie down a while. As soon as she'd left the room, Brad's mother said, "How is she really, Bitsy?" Bitsy waited so long to answer that Brad's mother said again, "Bitsy?" But then they all saw that Bitsy's eyes were swimming with tears. She leaned closer to Jin-Ho's high chair and painstakingly aligned several banana slices before she said in a tight voice, "Not so good, I think." Oh, my, Pat said. "Well, thank the Lord she's lived to see you get your baby. That means a lot to her, I know."
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.